ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot to move through this afternoon, and we're going to try to. We've got energy stuff after this committee, and a lot of the members have other committees going on. We are getting down to crunch time. First of all, we've got to do a few housekeeping matters. The first one is Delegate Yancey, 2346. What did you want to do on your bill?
Mr. Chair, if we could just let that bill go by for the year.
No, that would be a table. Have a motion that we gently lay House Bill 2346 on the table. Have a second. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Delegate Rochelle, 2155, just asked that his House Bill 2155 be laid on the table. Do I have a motion? Second. And all those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, House Bill 2155 is on the table. Delegate House Bill 2204, Delegate Torian asked that his bill be laid on the table. Second. And a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That bill is laid on the table. All right, House Bill, we have to refer a bill to courts. Committee got a letter, House Bill 2124, which is Delegate Minshew's bill. Do I have a motion that we refer, not report, but that we refer that one to the courts committee so that the civil sub can take a look at that? As long as it's civil sub. It needs to go past. Right, it's going to civil sub. It's in eminent domain. Okay. Have a motion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, that bill is moved to courts. All right. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, bottom House Bill 2412.
Yes.
I have something laid on the table.
All right. Delegate Hugo asked to make a motion that his own bill 2412 be laid on the table. Have a second? Second. All right. All those in favor of laying House Bill 2412 on the table say aye. Aye. All right. Opposed? All right. That motion carries. All right. We're down to a few bills here left, but we do have energy stuff. So if a bill appears to be getting long, or if you think it's going to have a long argument on each side, let me know so we can at least get some time to each side so we don't take up every one side. Delegate Head, you here? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've got House Bill 2400 before you.
All right.
And, Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple of line amendments, if we could.
Okay.
If you'll take a look at the bill on line 16, the word...
Is there a substitute?
There's not a substitute. These were just brought to me by the...
Should I report to Mr. Chairman?
Yes, report.
The first amendment's on page 1, line 16. After health, strike the word benefit. The second amendment is on line 19. It would be striking all of the language on lines 19 through lines 24. And the third amendment is on line 26. After providers, strike a comma to charge the sponsor of a health plan, comma.
I didn't get the first one. What was the first one?
The first one, Mr. Chairman, is on line 16.
Okay.
At the beginning of the line after health, strike the word benefit.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion on those amendments? Do you have a motion? All right. Have a motion and a second on those amendments. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Aye. Those amendments are before us. Adopted. All right. Delegate Head.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was brought to me, shared by one of our colleagues who is a pharmacist. And this is an issue that exists when pharmacies and health plans are working together to try to determine how various drugs are going to be paid for. There are price lists that are used for that, and you'll have various types of price lists that come up through the through the process as they are determining their contracts. But the problem exists that you will have a price list that is used in negotiating with the pharmacy to be able to pay. So it will tell you what the price of the drug that they are contracting to be paid is, and then what the dispensing fee is going to be. But then on the other end of the transaction, there is a report where they will tell the insurance plan what the price of the drug is and what the dispensing fee is. The problem is when you start getting the information on both sides, they're using two different prices as they are negotiating along, and you end up with an incredible disparity between what the PBM is actually paying to the pharmacy versus what they're reporting to the health plan that they're paying to the pharmacy. Sometimes on a single generic drug, it might be as high as $90 paid to the pharmacy and $1,000 reported to the plan. So there's a huge, sometimes, disparity. Sometimes it's none at all, sometimes it's varying, but it tends to run the cost to the plan up, which ultimately is going to be used to calculate the cost of next year's premium. And so in looking at this, what this bill seeks to do is say, whatever you're going to do in the negotiation, whichever price list you want to play with, make sure that it's the same price list on both sides of the transaction, so that it's being calculated, what's being reported to the health plan is in the same realm as what's being paid actually to the pharmacy, so that we know what the cost of providing care is. So that in essence is the bill. Imagine you're going to hear a lot of information on both sides of this. So.
Do you have anybody speak in favor?
Yes, we do.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Hunter Jamerson, representing Epic Pharmacies and the Association of Community Pharmacists. Mr. Chairman, we think this is a very good bill. You've heard bills similar to this in the past. I think the committee has come to understand the concept of spread pricing among pharmaceutical reimbursements in the supply chain between the carrier, the pharmacy benefit manager, and the pharmacy provider. As Young Ed has illuminated for you, there are significant disparities that can occur between a health plan-owned mail-order pharmacy's reimbursements and a non-health plan-owned community pharmacy's reimbursements. Certainly no secret my members would benefit from this bill, but I also think that the public at large would benefit from this bill. Premiums are very much dictated by costs in the system, and if we identify those spread pricing costs and have the opportunity to turn those into administrative fees, I think all of us will see our healthcare costs go down. We think it's a good bill, hope you'll support it, and hope that we can continue to work on this issue in the pharmacy space.
Thank you. Next. Yes. Yes. You can't get too much information. See what it is. Okay, yes. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Doug Gray, Executive Director of the Virginia Association of Health Plans. We are opposed to this legislation, so I'll be the beginning of the opposition, and there are a couple others who will speak as well. What this bill says isn't really what I think the delegate who asked Delegate Head to do this is after. Delegate Hodges is a pharmacist, and he's an Epic pharmacist, which means he's a community pharmacist. And what's really happening is he's having a smaller margin between what he can buy a drug for and what he can sell it to his customers for. And he's frustrated by that because PBMs are writing competitive contracts to try to reduce costs for the payer. So what's happening, and I put this chart out in front of you, is that he's focusing on one little piece of the pharmacy chain. And if you look at the chart I've given to you, the manufacturer is at the top. The manufacturer obviously sells the drug to the wholesaler and to the PBM for more than it costs them to make it. Then the drug wholesaler turns around and sells it to the pharmacist for more than they paid for it. And the PBM is trying to negotiate a rate so that they can make a profit. And then the pharmacist obviously is trying to sell it to the patient for more than he paid for it. So there's a spread everywhere in this set of contracts. As the payer, the insurer, the PBM will come to us and say, we can help hold the line on your net costs versus last year. And they'll set a standard in the contract. We will take that standard, and they will negotiate hard so that they can make a profit below the standard that we've contracted for. That's exactly what you've asked us to do, whether it's the state health plan, whether it's Medicaid, whether it's the commercial market. Our job is to try to figure out how to hold the line of costs. So to single out one little contract in which there are many spreads throughout the system, as I've demonstrated in this chart, would really be inappropriate in legislation. The second concern that we have is that what I mentioned earlier with the state plan and Medicaid. If you're going to establish a policy for the Commonwealth, then you have to establish it for yourselves. Why do I bring that up? Because it will cost more to have a pass-through contract with an administrative fee than it would to have a spread contract, which is what we have today. And right now, there are some folks who choose to have a pass-through contract with administrative fee. I have one member who does that, but the vast majority choose a spread contract. And they do that because it's a better bottom line for their clients and for the purchasers, including the state, the Medicaid program, the state health plan, and all of the insurers who employers who are buying from us. The last observation I would share with you is that part of what Delegate Hodges is after is trying to disclose proprietary information. And when you do that, the FTC is opined that it doesn't help the consumer. It actually leads to harming the consumer because then there's collusion on the raising of prices. So we don't really think that this is an appropriate bill or approach to addressing their concern. And lastly, what I would suggest to you is most of us have read this language, and we can't tell you really what it means, or whether it actually does what I think he's seeking to accomplish. But my assumption is that he's seeking to accomplish a move away from a spread contract to a pass-through administrative rate. I do have an additional speaker. I believe you have one more speaker right here, and he represents Walter.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. My name is Scott Woods. I am the Senior Director for State Affairs at the Pharmaceutical Care Management Association, which represents America's Pharmacy Benefit Managers, or PBMs. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before the committee today. At its core, HB 2400 is a government intrusion into private contracting. It would impose a state mandate on how two private entities are permitted to do business with one another. In short, this bill is a solution in search of a problem. Because PCMA and its member companies conduct all of our activities in full compliance with state and federal antitrust laws, at no time are competitively sensitive issues such as pricing and market share discussed. Thus, I can only speak to how our industry works to give the committee a sense of how and why PBMs now provide prescription drug benefits to more than 266 million Americans covered through a range of public and private programs. Employers and other plan sponsors hire PBMs to manage the plan sponsor's drug benefit and control drug spend. If a plan sponsor is unhappy with its PBM's performance, it can fire the PBM. The marketplace is highly competitive, and PBMs aggressively compete for that business to meet their clients' needs. Employers and other plan sponsors may permit the PBMs to retain the difference between an amount that a PBM charges a plan sponsor and the amount that the PBM pays a pharmacy that dispenses the drug to a consumer. This spread pricing model is not a blank check. In some cases, the plan sponsor may compensate its PBM via administrative fees instead of having spreads. Again, the compensation model is negotiated between the plan sponsor and its PBM. This bill would require that carriers or their intermediaries use the same undefined drug price benchmark value to reimburse providers as they charge health plan sponsors. It's a misunderstanding of the marketplace to assume that PBMs make up reimbursement levels out of thin air. These contractually agreed prices are typically expressed as a percentage of a widely available list benchmark, most commonly the average wholesale price, or AWP. For example, the PBM may reimburse pharmacies for drugs at AWP minus 18% plus a $1 dispensing fee. The PBM may then contract for reimbursement from the sponsor at a somewhat smaller discount off AWP, say AWP minus 16% plus a $2 administration fee per script. This is but one compensation model that a PBM and plan sponsor may negotiate. While some may say that PBMs are gaming the system, insurance companies, for-profit businesses, not to mention the state employee health plans, and other government-sponsored programs are sophisticated purchasers. This bill would force the payers to use a specific and what may be more expensive business model. Spread pricing may be the least expensive model when PBMs are competing aggressively and the plan sponsors comparing similar offerings. The risk of this contract is minimized as the PBM is usually guaranteeing the rates. Thus, the discounts and rebates that PBM guarantees protect plan sponsors against increases in drug costs or decreases in rebates. Simply put, the PBM is at risk. Allowing spread pricing provides incentives for the PBM to negotiate aggressively with network providers. The business model that this bill would mandate would result in higher, not lower insurance costs because health plans and other plan sponsors will incur the risk that a PBM might otherwise take. The plan sponsor may have a higher volume of prescriptions from retail pharmacies that give less favorable discounts, and not having the spread pricing reduces the incentive for a PBM to negotiate aggressively for network discounts and rebates from manufacturers. In sum, HB 2400 is bad for business, it's bad for consumers, and does nothing to address the real problem, rising drug prices set by manufacturers. We urge members of the committee to oppose this bill. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Robert Barada here on behalf of Express Scripts and America's Health Insurance Plans. Just make two quick comments. The first is direct your attention to line 26 on the bill. When you made the amendments or the line amendments, I did not hear that you struck the word benefit in the last part of that. So you still have a problem in the bill, because now we're not defining health benefit plans. The next issue is just a misunderstanding on how premiums are set by health plans. And
You know that. If you know that, you know, I'm all ears.
Yeah, okay, great. Yes, Mr. Chairman. And that a benchmark value is going to have very little value to us as health plans in setting premiums. We look at overall drug spend, and that has a lot of components to it, not just a benchmark value. So I just wanted to put that into you. And I would urge you not to pass the bill, but perhaps send it to the HERC or someplace like that where it can be looked at and things like this can be fixed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Matt Cobb, represent CVS Caremark, and believe this bill is unsafe.
Delta Head, you have the last word.
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you can see, it's a very complicated issue.
Very much so.
Very, very complicated issue.
What do you think about sending it to her before we work on this?
I think perhaps that would be a very good solution. It does seem, just editorially, as I mentioned to some of these folks when they were meeting with me in the office, that when I've had friends who were attorneys who have said that if you're a defense attorney and you don't have good evidence, you muddy the water. And I think that there has been an awful lot of mud that has been stirred up that doesn't really address what we're trying to get to at this bill, but perhaps that could get clarified if we have her take a look at that, and we can have a little more time to dig into that.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion.
Well, you would
Send it to the Health Insurance Reform Commission again.
I have a motion and a second.
Or make an appropriate motion.
Table, make a motion to table, and then I'll do a letter to her. How about that? Have a motion and a second for me to table the bill. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. The bill's tabled, and I will write a letter to her, and I'll let you read it for us.
Very good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much.
Then I get House Bill 2190. Was it Moscow? 2190. Yes. Orsko.
Orsko, yes.
Sorry about that.
We all have trouble with the way we pronounce words sometimes. I'm certainly.
I have trouble more than anybody, I think.
I won't hold it against you, Chairman. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, today I present HB 2190, which would prevent employers from asking salary history during the hiring process. This bill will help narrow the gender pay gap because women earn just 78 cents of what men earn in Virginia. This is a bill that will benefit all workers, but women and millennials are disproportionately disadvantaged when asked about salary history. Women are more likely to leave the workplace for periods of time to raise children like I did, which affects their salary history. Historically, women also take lower paid jobs with greater flexibility after becoming parents. This can affect salary growth for years. Millennials also stand to benefit from this bill, as many of them graduated during the recession and were forced to take jobs at lower salary than they were qualified for. That's also something that can follow them for years. Employers ask potential employees for their past wage history on job applications during the interview process, often using this information to determine the pay offered, rather than determining a fair wage for the work. Without prior salary history, employers will look for other criteria to determine pay, such as their skills, work experience, education, and recommendation. A manager at a nonprofit organization excels at the same skills as a manager at a private firm, yet is often discriminated against during the job application process when an employer uses that salary history to determine their new pay. I understand that businesses are wary of new regulations. I completely understand. I would like the body to know that in Massachusetts, the same bill came before the Massachusetts General Assembly, and their Chamber of Commerce in Boston actually endorsed and supported the bill, which is now law. I understand, again, particularly when we're being asked to consider how we set pay. This is something that's discomforting. But I believe that it's unacceptable that a significant pay gap still persists in Virginia. And the businesses here have not been able to close the gap on their own. In the press yesterday, we heard even that here in the General Assembly, there is a significant wage gap disparity between our clerks in the House and the Senate.
Yeah, but he manages 100 and she only manages 40.
I know, and I was going to say, some people would say that he's paid more because we are more difficult to work with, and she doesn't have quite that heavy load. But we have to recognize that the leadership in the Senate actually came forward and said, let's make sure that they're paid the same, according to this article. So that tells me he wanted to have pay equity, which I think all of us do.
You got anybody here to speak in favor?
I actually do. I have Leslie Torenji, the Vice President of the Virginia Public Policy for American Association of University Women here in Virginia. And I also should have Jacqueline Hickson, who was with she went through the Sorensen Institute. It did a group project focused on eliminating salary history inquiries.
I've got two. So which one do you want? I got two votes.
How about Leslie?
Okay.
How about we start with Leslie?
Yes, ma'am. Come on up.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak today on behalf of the American Association of University Women, where I am Vice President of Public Policy for our Virginia branch. AAUW strongly supports HB 2190 and believes it signifies an important step toward closing the gender pay gap in Virginia. There is convincing evidence that sex discrimination in the workplace continues to be a problem. That's not a myth, that's math. Nationally, women working full-time, year-round, on average, earn 80% of what men earn, and it's actually worse in Virginia, with Virginia women taking home 78% of men's wages on average. This ranks us 35th out of all the states in the District of Columbia, and this year represents a widening of the pay gap from figures in 2014, where actually women in Virginia earn more than the national average. It's also important to remember that the pay gap does not affect all women equally. Women of color, older women, and moms experience an even larger pay gap. And when there's a gender pay gap, it doesn't just impact women. It impacts families, it impacts businesses, and it impacts the economy. There are some critics who dismiss pay differences between men and women as merely a matter of personal choice. For example, they may say, well, if women selected different college majors or careers, there wouldn't be a gender pay gap. Our research says otherwise. In our research report, Graduating to a Pay Gap, we found that just 1 year after college graduation, Women who were working full-time were paid on average just 82% of what their male peers were paid. And after controlling for factors that affect pay, such as hours worked, occupation, college wages, there was still a 7% pay gap 1 year after college that couldn't be explained. Now, I'd be willing to bet that there's nobody in this room that would want to take 7% less than the person sitting next to them who may be doing the same job. 10 years after graduation, our research found that the pay gap widened, despite the fact that women were more likely to earn an advanced degree. So knowing this, relying on prior salary as a marker for future pay only compounds the problem, hurting women and people of color. If we rely on salary history to set future salary, that assumes that prior salaries were fairly established in the first place. But if a worker starts out with a pay gap, loses wages by basing each successive job on that initial salary and compounding it, it just continues bias and discrimination. When hiring for a position, I don't think there probably is any argument that an employer looks for the best qualified individual for the position. Specifically, that would mean the employer is looking for the individual who has the knowledge, skills, and abilities to best perform the duties of the job. And salary history doesn't help you make those determinations. It harms individuals and it disproportionately impacts women. For example, an excellent candidate for a position may have gained the knowledge, skills, and abilities through an unpaid internship, through volunteer work, or maybe came from a geographic area where the pay was less, and that's why they were paid less. But that continues if we continue to use salary history to base salary. The proposed bill is an important tool in combating this problem, and it's also keeping with the trend among states to offer increased equal pay protection to their workers. In 2015, there were 7 states that passed equal pay bills, and in 2016, there were 6 states. And these bills that advanced, they were in red states, blue states, and purple states. Nebraska, North Dakota, Utah, California, Connecticut, Delaware, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, Oregon, and New York all passed equal pay bills. Currently, there's 2 states, California and Massachusetts, that have passed legislation similar to this, relying on prohibiting and basing current salary on prior salary and using that information. So, before I close, I just want to offer one recommendation in terms of making the bill even stronger, adding a provision requiring all job postings to include a salary range. And then it's very clear, and if you look at evaluating candidates who meet the knowledge, skills, and ability and experience, then you'll be getting the information that employers need. So I think this is a win-win-win. A win for an employer, a win for women employees, and male employees.
Thank you
very much.
Yes, ma'am. Next.
Delegate Boysko, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee, good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Hibson. I am here to represent the 2016 class of the Sorensen Institute Emerging Leadership Program. The 2016 ELP policy proposal was to eliminate the pay history question on job applications in the Commonwealth. We spent 3 months researching and writing about this issue during our program. The pay history question on job applications hurts the Virginia economy for several reasons. It removes opportunity for workers to get paid what they're worth and negotiate with their employers for their salary. Pay should be determined on a market-based approach. Hire employees for what they can do, not how much they've been paid before. It negatively impacts those who recently obtained advanced degrees or professional credentials since their last pay negotiation, or those who have taken time away from work and are re-entering the workforce. It perpetuates existing pay gaps when hiring new employees, particularly pay gaps in gender, age, and race. Thus, pay history question affects women, millennials, and ethnic minorities more than others. In Virginia, as previous testimony said, women earn 78 cents for every dollar that a man earns, according to the American Association of University Women. That puts us 35th amongst the states, only 16 states have a gender pay gap larger than the one we had in Virginia. That ratio, exhibited by nationwide data, gets even worse when factors such as age and ethnicity are also considered. For example, according to the Pew Research Center, Hispanic women earn 58% of what white men do. To me, that's unacceptable. Higher education is also a factor in the pay history question. Imagine you've just earned your MBA from UVA and waited tables to make ends meet during that time. When you go back to the workforce and look for a job, would you rather be able to negotiate your salary as a more valuable employee you are, post-Gaza agreed, or do you like your salary to be based on what you were making waiting tables? As a woman and millennial, I ask the committee to support this measure. People should be paid what they're worth, not what they were worth in their last salary negotiation. Give employers and employees the power to use market-based strategies for economic success. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else about opposition, real quick? Real quick, I've got to move.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Nicole Riley with the National Federation of Independent Business. The reason that we're opposing the legislation is basically we think that employers ought to have flexibility to be able to ask these questions, particularly for small business owners. This is a good opportunity for them to understand what is the market for the position that they're trying to fill, because certainly they don't want to have a situation where, in fact, they actually would lowball somebody when they know their salary history and actually would be able to know whether or not they would be able to hire them at that. So we would oppose the bill. Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Brian Pierce from Virginia Chamber. First of all, we applaud the government's efforts to encourage wage equity, but we also oppose the bill. We believe that the one-size-fits-all approach of mandate on businesses impedes the ability of employers and employees to negotiate salaries. It doesn't take into consideration the complexity of these negotiations. Sometimes things like sales and bonus structures, things where employment back is important to take into consideration. So that would take the bill.
All right, Ellie, you have the last word.
I thank you all for the consideration of this bill. This is meant to open up a dialogue. I understand that it's a complex situation. It has worked in other states. There is support from other chambers and other leadership groups that are in support of wage equity, and
Delegate Klein, question.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Chairman, question for the patron. I'm looking at the earlier section of the code that says it shall be unlawful for any employer to require any employer applicant for employment to pay the cost of furnishing any medical records required by the employer as a condition of employment. And it looks like the bill is drawn to this statute. Is that correct?
I'm going to tell you that I don't have the full code in front of me, so I don't have to answer that question.
Mr. Chairman, I'd say that it does seem to be drawn exactly to that section of the code, so it does seem like it's got precedent in the code.
Okay. Yes.
I just have a question. You know, what concerns me a little bit with this is that, you know, you're going about it in a different way by requiring this. I haven't heard anyone complain in my district that this is actually happening, that they're being questioned in businesses. Now, if you're just talking about equal pay, I mean, that's a law that's been in effect on the federal for 50 years now. So that really isn't something that we're debating here at this present time.
I can give you an example from my own personal experience. I've worked in the public sector my entire life. I spent a lot of time as a stay-at-home mom. I'm now making, what, $17,600? So, excuse me, I've given myself a $200 bonus. If I were looking for a new job, which I had to step down from my old job to be in this office, and I went online to apply for a job that does screening, the first step through, you know, what is your salary? If I put in that my salary is $17,000 a year, and I'm applying for a directorship or something that I'm fully qualified for, I would never even get an interview. And it's that, you know, that's the spirit I'm looking at this from. Not trying to harm businesses, but to open the door so that someone who is qualified will have an opportunity to at least show the person face to face that they should have a chance at it, instead of being immediately kicked out just through an online screening process, for instance. Doesn't that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but, I'm still just pondering this because, first of all, I don't know that I'd want to work for that company in the first place if that type of activity. So there are lots of other businesses that may not give you that impression that that's what they're doing, but to make it a one-size-fits-all, I think you carry with it unintended consequences. So for an example, you have unintended consequences, and what can happen is by demanding things out of business, then, it may put us at a disadvantage for also getting hired. Like, if I came along and thought I needed and earned, worked a lot harder than Delegate Kilgore, and I deserve to get paid more than him.
She probably does.
I've been here, longer than Delegate Hugo, so I should get paid more because I've been here longer and I have earned some seniority. So that would mean that none of us should be based on some sort of salary. I'm just saying that there's unintended consequences that we have to think about before we just demand something, because then we might totally put ourselves out of the position of being eligible based on the things that we bring to the job.
Well, when we just to follow back up, we all know what the salary is when we step into this job. But in Boston, for instance, I'll just tell you some information. They have the same bill at, keeping people from asking prospective hires their salary history. And that in their bill, which I would be open to having an amendment, it also granted companies affirmative defense in court if they have already implemented a credibility policy aimed at eradicating gender-based pay disparity. And here is what one of the representatives said. Often when these bills are proposed, there's an accusation that it's just to generate litigation. If a company undertakes a real review and fixes the problem, there won't be anything to sue over. And perhaps for that reason, the Boston Chamber of Commerce came out in strong support of the bill, calling it a thoughtful collaboration between lawmakers, business makers, and the Attorney General's office. Wage inequality not only affects businesses, but also has negative impacts on families and the overall economy, said the president of the Chamber of Commerce. So I think there is a way for us to look at this. Perhaps this needs more work, but I invite my colleagues here and the people who feel that they would be affected to work with me to figure out how we could address this issue here in Virginia, because I do think it is an issue for a lot of families.
Delegate Francis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Delegate Boyce-Smith, for the bill. I would say that many times we don't know what the employer is thinking. How do we know they're using that question to set their pay? But also, answering that question could many times work in their favor. They'll look at their past employment and see how much they're making. So I would never want to mandate on a private employer what they should not ask. Certainly not mandate another fine. For that reason, I have a motion to gently lay the bill on the table.
Have a second. All those in favor of laying on the table, say aye. Aye. Opposed? No. Opposed, raise your hand.
Thank you.
7 noes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Delegate Murphy. Delegate Murphy, House Bill 2350.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any amendments?
This time I have no amendments. Let's see what comes out of this discussion.
All right, give Delegate Murphy your attention.
Mr. Chairman, 2353 is a bill to strengthen protections of the Virginia Workers' Compensation System. by establishing a penalty for instances where employers seek to deter or dissuade employees from filing claims or intentionally failing to file notice of workplace accidents. Current law only imposes a fine for an employer's failure to report, but it does not address their conduct to deter employees from filing these claims.
You know what that fine is, failing to file a report?
It says that current law's penalty of $500 per violation, between $500 and $5,000 for willful violations. But they don't believe that it is sufficient to deter employers from attempting to prevent claims from being filed. So what this bill asks is that it create a penalty for anyone who knowingly and intentionally fails to comply with the requirement to report an employee's injury or death and dissuades or deters an employee from filing such a claim. It would provide that the employer is guilty of a Class 2 misdemeanor if he knowingly and intentionally does this.
And a Class 2 misdemeanor, for those of y'all who are not on boards, is up to 6 months in jail and a $1,000 fine.
Up to a $1,000 fine.
Delegate B.
I just had a quick question. Do you envision this criminal sanction going against the statutory employer, the actual employer, or the individual supervisor?
I would imagine that it is the employer that would be responsible for this. If he's got people working for him who are behaving in such a manner, he's responsible.
And the problem I think he's getting at, Delegate B, is that sometimes it's hard to hold a company criminally responsible if you have a big company and some supervisor said, hey, we've got a safety record or something like that, says, please don't report this. Then to get that up and please, encourages them not to report that. How do you get that criminal liability and knowing violation up to that, against that particular company? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, I mean, employers are a defined term in the Workers' Comp Act, so I just wanted to understand if she was defining it to be the immediate supervisor using the compact definition, the actual corporate employer, what she was trying to get at. Because again, I mean, there are theoretically some scenarios where we have criminal liability for companies in Virginia. You don't see that a whole lot under the law.
So is your suggestion to make it the supervisor of that person, the responsible party, be the one liable?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I wouldn't suggest it because I think criminal liability in this case is probably a bad idea, but employer is just a defined term, and I just want to make sure that she meant it to be including the Commonwealth, for example, which is an employer under the Workers' Comp Act. So you could have the Commonwealth attorney prosecuting, or the commission, there'd be a criminal act against the Commonwealth for doing something like this. It's just a big definition.
It's a big issue there. So we have you guys speak in favor of it?
No, I do not.
I know that.
I thought that this meeting was going to be long enough without listening to me.
Well, we appreciate that. Yeah, we do. I think there's somebody who will speak against it, so let's hear from them. And what we're saying is that there's some issues there with.
I appreciate that. I still think that there are ways to correct those issues, Mr. Chairman.
There may be.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, John Howard, representing the Virginia Self-Insurance Association and Metis Holdings, Inc., which is the group that oversees all the administration of
Speak up just a little bit.
Of the liability claims made against state those risk pool. We are opposed to this legislation for a variety of reasons. First of all, we don't believe that criminal penalties are necessary for this type of violations. As has already been pointed out, you've got some civil penalties, 500 to 5,000 in multiple cases, that are already applied to this. And what we're talking about is records and filing accident reports. I would note that as has already been pointed out, with the criminal penalty that goes along with a Class 2 misdemeanor, who is the actual employer in this case? Are you talking about the supervisor? Are you talking about the employee clerk? Are you possibly talking about a third-party administrator or an insurer? Or are you talking about the corporate CEO? I mean, there's a lot of issues that are raised here. I don't know what the terms dissuade or deter are going to be defined as. There's just a plethora of issues that come up in this legislation, and we would ask you not to take favorable action.
All right, you got the last word. I know you're against.
I just wanted to know the comments, I think.
All right, last word. Thank you. No one else is lined up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. While this bill might not meet your requirements for passing it today, I believe it is an issue that we need to address, and hopefully we can work on it and come back and pass it next time around.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to report.
I have a motion to report.
And a second on the table, Mr. Chairman.
Second on the second. And second? Second. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, no votes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Four. No votes? Six. Okay, six. Thank you. Delegate Hugo?
Yes, sir.
You have one bill?
Yes,
Bill?
sir. Have one
And
bill.
that is House Bill 2422. Yes.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Substitute on that?
Is there a substitute?
No, Mr. Chairman, there's no substitute. There is something, a notice that the bill was, I guess it's called blue covered in the 6th floor, and when it was printed, it got historical notes on lines 11 and 101, so I prepared 2 line notes to delete those lines from the bill.
All right. All right, Delegate, do I have a motion on those amendments? A second? Second. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, those amendments are adopted. Delegate Hugo.
Mr. Chairman, first, thank you to our senior for catching on that. And what this does here, Mr. Chairman, this pertains basically what happened with Grand Beach Wiley. Before 2015, Grand Beach Wiley said that financial institutions had to send annual privacy notices. Well, this was amended in 2015 to say financial institutions only had to send these notices when they somehow disseminate private information and there's a change to the policy, but they excluded the insurance companies. This simply says that insurance companies only have to provide that notice when there's a change, and so we don't have to do it annually when there's no change. This hopefully people will get the idea. Gosh, sometimes people don't even read these things, but they figure it's just the same thing over and over. When they get these down, they'll understand, hey, read this because there is a change. So that's quite simply what it does, Mr. Chairman. And hope the committee will fail.
All right, anybody wants to speak in favor of the bill? Yes, sir. Come on up.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Committee, I'm Taylor Cosby, American Insurance Association, and we are in favor of it. The Bureau of Insurance is in favor of it, life insurers are in favor of it, the agents are in favor of it. Everybody's in favor of it. What it does is just true up the 2 statutes.
Move to report.
Have a motion to report to have a second. Anybody else wish to be heard for or against? Members ready to vote on electronic voting board. Oh, you did. He's not here. Hugo, vote for your bill. Okay, here, come on. Take a look. All right. Clerk will close the roll. House Bill 2222. 24-22 reports with amendments, so 19-0. Thank you. Delegate, is that who she is? We didn't see you. Delegate West Lefferts. This was a bill that was left in committee last time with no motion. The Delegate Lefferts did not have his witness here. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Do you have your witness here?
I do.
All right.
Okay, so
Remind us what this bill's about.
just a reminder,
1813.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, it's an assignment benefits bill. And, I'll digress just for a second to make sure that everybody's on the same page with what we're talking about. I'm a patient. I go and get services from a doctor. The assignment benefits bill will allow me to sign a piece of paper allowing the doctor to bill directly to the insurance company, even though the doctor may not have an agreement with that insurance company. So basically, I have a contract with the pool company. I will pay the pool company $10,000 per pool in. The pool company can actually assign the right to collect the $10,000 to a banker or to a neighbor or someone else. So the principle is pretty much the same. We left off last week. There were probably two things that I wanted my office to address. One was the out-of-network, the network issue that the insurance carriers raised. And the second was the balance billing issue. So with that platform, I'll have Dr. Louis Siegel address those issues.
Yes, sir. We can do it as quickly as possible. That'd be great. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, committee members. My name is Louis Siegel. I'm an emergency physician, chair of the Department of Emergency Medicine at Chesapeake Regional Medical Center in Chesapeake, Virginia. Thank you for your time. I will be brief. I'm speaking in support of House Bill 1813, Assignment of Benefits. As Dr. Lefkowitz said, when a patient presents for care in the emergency department, they sign a consent form that states that they would like to have the benefits of their insurance plan, meaning the payment, assigned to the provider or hospital that renders the care. Assignment of benefits legislation simply honors the patient's wishes. I have the consent form here that patients sign when they come through the hospital. And on the third paragraph, first line, I read briefly, assignment of benefits. The patient and or the insured request that payments of any existing insurance benefits are made on their behalf to all providers of service during this encounter. Assignment of benefits legislation would help maintain Virginia's medical safety net so that the emergency medicine physicians, the docs who can't say no, who must evaluate and treat every patient who presents for care, regardless of the patient's insurance status or the provider's or hospital's insurance participation status, can continue to be there for all who need. Most Virginia health insurers honor the patient's request to assign and send payments to those physicians and hospitals who provide services in good faith, whether providers are participating or not participating. Under current law, some health plans refuse to do so, sending payments instead to patients who can often cash and spend the checks. This legislation only changes the address on the reimbursement check from the patient to the provider, as directed by the patient. Under current law, this prevents providers from receiving prompt reimbursement for their services. This sets up a potentially adversarial relationship between healthcare providers and their patients. This could potentially lead to loss of tax revenues by Virginia, as insurance checks kept by patients are not reported as taxable income. If any Virginia business is obligated to provide a service and then further required to accept an inadequate or no payment for that service, the quality of care or quality of service will ultimately suffer. This is especially true for critical services such as those provided in emergency departments of Virginia. The General Assembly approved assignment of benefits legislation for dentists and oral surgeons in 1999. We're just asking for the same consideration. Regarding the issues that Delegate Lefkowitz brought up, as far as the strength of insurance networks, states that have assignment of benefits legislation have been able to maintain strong networks. And as far as the issue of balanced billing, that keeps the market, as with any industry, so automobile industry was brought up, but if you take your car in and the insurance payment is for so much, the balanced billing is the additional amount that you pay for the rest of the services. That's the same issue with healthcare, and they are separate issues. I ask for your support. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Any comments? I think we understand it. Doug, you still against it? Anything changed since Tuesday? I mean, last time we met?
No. Mr. Chairman, I'm Executive Director of the Virginia Association of Health Plans. We oppose this legislation. We think it leads to more surprise billing. If you, as a member of the General Assembly, were to go to the Chesapeake Hospital, which has given a monopoly to the regard physicians for all of the business in their hospital, the hospital would be in that, and then you would get a surprise bill. In addition to what the health plan would pay. In Health Affairs in January, they say 1 in 5 inpatient emergency department cases may lead to surprise billing. This legislation will make it happen a lot more often.
Delegate Lethbridge, what, Jesus?
Yes, sir.
You get to close this out.
I just have Dr. Siegel maybe address the issue of balance billing if there are any questions in there.
Yeah, that's fine. Come on up, Doctor. Again. That's all right.
Thank you. Our physician practices want to be in network. We want to have the best services for the patients that need us. But in order to do that, you have to be able to negotiate with insurers. And assignment of benefits is used as a tactic to make it difficult to negotiate. And in fair market, we want to be able to provide the best service. We want to be able to have the best physician teams. We want to be able to have enough doctors there to take care of as many patients come to the hospital, to the emergency department. And so we do want to be there and be in that work.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, Delegate, that's what you got.
I think to maybe put that in layman's terms, you always have that risk of balance billing, but they don't want to be put in that situation. They want to be able to be in network. They want to come to an agreement with insurers. And in order to come to a fair agreement, they need to have a level playing field. And so that's really what we're here. Dentists and oral surgeons already have that. They do it. There's not, no one's down here clamoring to take them out of it because of balance billing. There's no reason to think that the emergency docs or the other group do the same thing.
All right. Anybody?
Move to report.
Motion to report. Second. All right. Are members prepared to vote?
Jay.
Got to have a motion in a second. Members prepared to vote? Vote on electronic voting board.
I was trying to.
Stop right now.
All right, clerk will close the roll. House Bill 1813 reports 15 yes. 15-6. Delegate Bauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2107. House Bill 2107 deals with the Health Insurance Reform Commission. This commission, those of you that are just fairly new, came about when we became a part of the health exchange from the ACA. But prior to that, it was always the mandated benefits commission, been around for over 20 years. And the bill needs to, the sunset clause makes it expire this year, so if we're going to send the bills and you want us to continue with the bills you just voted on a little while ago, we need to extend the sunset, or basically, it never had one before, so the question is just remove it.
Is that what you did?
Yes, we removed it, and there's some technical amendments. Just from the staff.
I have a motion to report. All right. Member Wishing to vote, vote electronic vote board. Clerk will close the roll. House Bill 2107 reports 3-0. And next is Delegate Branson.
Delegate Branson, do you have a substitute or anything?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I do have a substitute that we need to adopt.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the substitute. Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, tell us about your substitute.
The substitute has technical changes, really no subject matter changes. But House Bill 2358 is related to interim rates and the ability for water companies to charge customers their requested rate during rate cases before the State Corporation Commission. What this bill will do is prevent water utilities from changing their rates on an interim or temporary basis until the rate increase or change has been approved by the State Corporation Commission. So what I'd like to do is just explain the process as I understand it. The water company will ask the State Corporation Commission for a water rate increase. And in the interim, while the case is going on, they're allowed to charge that interim rate to the customers until it gets approved by the State Corporation Commission. And if the requested rate is not approved, the water company will refund the customer back with the interest. So in a sense, in my region, in the rural region, the customers are really paying a loan to the water companies until the hearing at the State Corporation Commission has been finalized. And I know the process seems very straightforward, but where I live, it's low income or fixed income, it's extremely difficult. The case that brought this to my attention has been going on for several months, over a year, and it's been extremely, number one, confusing to the customers where I live, but also financial burden. Again, like I said, they are on a fixed income. While the bills may be $75 a month, they plan them in their budget. Some of them have increased to $90 or $125 a month, and that's difficult. I mean, I have a lot of folks on food stamps, and
did you say how long did
this case has been going on? I want to say for 15 months. I'd rather the State Corporation Commission. I do have a member of the board.
Part of it, which area of the State Corporation Commission handles this? Cody, I see Cody back there. One of you all could be up here in just a minute, so we can maybe ask some questions. Okay.
I'll, in defense of the companies, I know we're appreciative of them. They've taken over old infrastructure, but it's also been a long process, and it's been extremely difficult. We've tried to address the issue by letting some of the folks dig their own wells, but that's also a financial hardship. So I do have a couple of folks from home.
We get to come up. Thank you. I'll let you know she's been fighting hard for you. Delegate Branson has.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I welcome the opportunity to support Delegate Branson's bill. I represent the Glebe Harbor Cabin Point community in Westmoreland County. We are a community of some 1,400 lots. 537 of them are improved. We are a portion of the approximately 2,650 customers that Virginia American Water has in the Eastern District. Now remember that number because I'm going to give you a test, 2,650. Here's the deal that Margaret pointed out. We have had a relentless march of rate increases throughout the life of this community, but I'm not here to whine about that. I'm here to whine about the process that Margaret described, this latest bill was filed with the State Corporation Commission in October of 2015. Excuse me. Yeah, that's right. The State Corporation Commission approved the levying of the rates back in May of last year. Since that time, my personal water bill has increased over the base amount by $117. Now, that number I'm going to give you a test on. If you take $26.50 and say $110, that's over $250,000 that the water company has had and no interest on it. But the other thing that Margaret said, and let me stress this, we are by and large a senior community, and many of us are on fixed incomes. This is killing us. It's taking a wrecking ball to our finances, and I certainly hope that you will see fit to approve this. Thank you for the opportunity. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to entertain.
Thank you for coming. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'm Russ Culver, member of the Board of Supervisors for Westmoreland County, and I represent 3 of the largest subdivisions in that county that are under Virginia American Water. I get calls all the time about people complaining about the water rate increases.
And these are the increases that are, what you're getting complaints about are the increases that are allowed between the time that they apply for the rate case until the rate case is either approved or until the rate case is heard or decided.
The director for American Water told me at one meeting we had with him that he can raise the rates every 2 years. But the thing that Margaret's bringing up, Mr. Ransom, is that the case is this time they wanted a 15% increase. But then they tacked on, instead of allowing 6,000 gallons a month, they allow 4,000 gallons a month. Well, then that 15% comes about 45–50% increase. And then, so they start charging you that from the time they put, before it was adopted, they start charging you those rates, the 4,000 gallons plus the increase, over a period of months and months and months. And then they just don't give you the money back. They put it as credits on each month for the next couple of years, you know. But in that regard, I represent those people, and I represent and approve Delegate Ransom's bill here. Thank you.
All right, yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Dana Williams with the Virginia Poverty Law Center, we definitely support the bill and appreciate the patron.
All right, anybody wish to?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
And I don't know if Delegate Ransom's the right one to answer or someone from the commission. So right now, as I understand it, when they apply, they can do their interim rates, and then if the commission awards a number less than the interim rates, they refund that money with interest over time. If we reverted to this, if we switched that and said you can't raise till the commission orders it, could the commission order the ratepayers to pay more to make up for what they would have paid the interim time and pay interest on that money?
I think we have somebody from the commission here that might help us with that.
She has been very helpful.
Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does.
So the issue would be, what I would hate to see this legislation do is result in, if the commission upheld their rate request and said, yeah, you were entitled to it during the 15-month pendency of this matter, now ratepayers, you go make up for 15 months the underpayment you made.
And that is retroactive rate making. And I'm sorry, I'm Kim Pate with the State Corporation Commission. And it's under the delegate's bill. If the rates were approved by the commission, there would be a prospective change in the rates. They would not go backwards and then bill in the arrears.
What would happen now is I think what Delegate Deeb is asking.
Now, as I understand it, the ratepayers get their money back if the applying utility loses with interest. If they weren't able to charge the interim rate, they wouldn't be able to recover that money. And so, but if the State Corporation Commission believed that they weren't in fact entitled to that amount of money to get their operating revenue, then they would have to make up for that 15-month window. And so while they can't retrospectively charge them, it would, I would think, would lead to potentially bigger jumps as it went forward.
Would that be correct?
Well, the rates are set on a cost of service basis, and we look at a 12-month period, it's referred to as a rate year. So we look at a specific 12-month period. So we would look at the costs that were reasonably predicted to be incurred during that time. So we wouldn't go back and make up any differences that were not collected in a past time. So whatever the costs were for that 12-month period, that's what rates would be set on.
Okay. I think Delegate Byron has it. Delegate Byron.
Yeah.
You go? You go?
Just a question maybe for the first speaker. Did he say it's $117 a month or an extra $117?
No, sir, the aggregate of my,
No, but is it an extra $117 a month?
I think it's an extra 117.
yeah, okay, on the base rates, without the increase, without the imposition of the new rates, my water bills total since last May would have been some, let's say $550. I have the numbers here. But since they imposed the rate increase, my bill was $117 over that. So it would be the $545 plus the $117, which is some $600 and some odd dollars.
How often is that?
I'm sorry?
How often is that?
How often is what, sir?
The bill you're talking about.
Oh,
the 500.
it said it comes every 2 months.
Okay, so that's $500 some dollars every 2 months?
No, sir. If you'll bear with me 1 second.
Okay.
So Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'm going to show you that. Okay.
Mr. Chairman. So that's an extra $700 annually.
Okay, look, let's start in May of 2016. My bill was $115.85. And then in July, it was $153.12. In September, the bill was $167.64. In November, it was $138.60. And I just paid $124.08. Now, the base rate prior to the imposition of the new rates would have been $109.56 every other month.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
But I mean, I guess when it's, so Margaret is Delegate Ransom, is he paying an extra $700 annually? Is that what they're saying about?
Yes.
And I guess that's the question. You're saying you're paying an extra $700 annually about? Approximately.
Let me
I think it's simple for us here.
Base rates without this latest case. My base rate used to be for 6,000 gallons, $109.56. So I would pay that every other month. Work the numbers with, 6 times a year. Now, based on usage, since the base rate has gone down to 4,000 gallons from 6,000 gallons, and further increments of billing are now measured in 100-gallon increments versus 1,000-gallon increments. You can work the numbers, it just depends on how much you use. And another problem is people are starting to drill wells. The more wells, the less water the company has to sell. And it's a self-defeating spiral.
Mr. Chairman, why does it take so long to do rate cases? I don't know. What is the average time that it should take, or it seems like?
I don't know. Yes. I think that's a question for you. He asked it to me, but I don't know.
Commission. Just specifically speaking to the Virginia American case that was filed, and was filed back on October 30th, 2015. In that application,
Can you pull the mic up? We can't hear you.
I'm sorry. Usually I'm very loud. In that application, the company asked for a lot of new issues, or presented a lot of new issues to the commission. There are a lot of issues of first impression. It required a lot of review and analysis on staff's part to try and get to a point where we could present good evidence to the commission to fulfill the record, so the commission can make a determination on a full and complete record. Again, this was unusual as far as Virginia American. Generally, the cases are not as complicated and they don't last as long, but this time it really was.
these actually go to the commission, to the three commissioners to decide this rate case.
Yes, it was heard by a hearing examiner, and he has made his recommendation. It's just a recommendation to the commissioners, and the commissioners will then make a decision, and that will be the final answer in the case. That is currently pending.
I have a question for you too. How often are the rate cases not accepted? Is it more off than not, just generally speaking? And next, is there a limit as far as how bloated that figure can be?
Well, I'm going to answer the second question first. The company files the application with the commission, and in that application, they ask for a certain increase in their revenues. So that's the first step. And then there are all of the parties that are involved in the case. That could be the Attorney General's office, it could be consumer groups, it could be the City of Alexandria. Of course, staff is always instructed by the commission to investigate the application. And we do a full audit of the company as far as for rate-making purposes to determine what costs are appropriate for rate-making purposes and which are not. And then we make our recommendation to the commission. So there's a lot of time and work that's involved in our process. And again, we're not the only folks looking at it.
But I don't think you totally answered my question, though. Talking about the difference between the rate, as far as what you usually end up with, is it generally within a small percentage of the amount, or do you have some huge increases you look at?
It could be anywhere from a zero increase. They might have asked for an increase and it wasn't justified, and the commission has been known to not give a company an increase. Or they could file and ask for an increase, and everything, all the evidence in the record supports giving the whole increase. It could be anywhere on the spectrum. And I really can't say that there's any magic number that if an application comes in, we know that they're going to get 75% of it. It really just depends on what the costs are and how the company has supported them.
Delegate Ware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question is along the same lines. I'm thinking back to the rate cases I've heard for our rather larger size electric utilities. I don't recall them having this length of time before they're adjudicated, but I'm not party to those directly. Is this 15 months? Sounds to me like a fairly long time on what doesn't seem like would be as complicated a case. I don't pretend to be an engineer, but am I missing something?
A lot of the rate cases, they had different time frames. It just depends. And again, this one had a lot of complex issues in it, a lot of new requests that required a lot of discovery by all of the parties. There were lots of interrogatory questions propounded on to the company. It took them a while to answer all those questions. Again, more questions usually result in you just go through that process. Some of the electric company cases used to last about a year or so also. The cases can run different periods of time. A lot of times it is driven by how complex the case is. And really, this one was very complex.
Follow, Mr. Chairman? Yes. Do you feel like your office is sufficiently staffed to handle these cases timely?
Yes, sir. I think we do a very thorough job, and that's one of the reasons that it took this long. We had a great staff on there. They did a very good job, very thorough job. I can't thank them enough for that. And I think they went into all of these issues in a very deep and very thorough manner to make sure that the commission had a full record. Again, that's our job there. Whatever the answer is, it doesn't matter. Our job is to get there, find the evidence, put the data on the record, and let the commission decide. And I think there was a lot of good information put on the record in this case.
Thank you. Thank you.
Douglas Farrell.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, question for you. You said it's all across the board, but it can't be that disparate. Does it usually take, is 9 months a fair number? Well, it could usually be 9 months if it's a simple case, if it's a company that's just re-upping annuities. I think this got a little common from what I understand. Somebody acquired this, but if it's just a repeat customer who hasn't changed service a lot, he's there for a new rate case, does it usually take 6 to 9 months? Is it 15 months? 2 months?
It's never 2 months.
Okay.
I can't say that.
Because, Mr. Chair, I think what I'm getting at is, and I'm a little, and if I could ask one more question, that's all right, Mr. Chair, is that the pricing goes forward. You don't backward price.
That is correct. We set rates based on a rate year level of cost of service, and that is a forward-looking period.
So, Mr. Chair, so in this case, I guess what you're doing is you're going to look at how much you think the system costs over the past 12 months, and then base their forward rates on that number. Is that correct?
We look for any changes that are reasonably predicted to occur in that future period, and we make those adjustments to the per load cost of service. So we're actually looking out, in this case, the rate year actually began on April 1, 2016. So anything that we expected to occur from April 1, 2016 to March 31, 2017, we built those changes into our cost of service, and that's what the revenue requirement and ultimately the rates will be set on.
Mr. Chair, did you review the minimum charge?
You mean the interim rates that were placed into effect? And just to point one thing out too, the interim rates were suspended, or the rates were suspended, the new rates, from October 30th through March 31st. So there was a period of time where they were not put into effect. But then when we're looking at the going forward cost of service, we're looking to see if those rates are appropriate. So when you say, do we look at the interim rates, those are the rates that we're trying to determine what level should be set by the commission.
So, Mr. Chair, but who decided to unsuspend them? You based on new data, or the company just knew the clock ran out so they raised the rates?
No, it is statutory. The commission can suspend the rates up to 150 days. And so they issued an order for notice of hearing, and in that they suspended the rates through March 31st, and the company was allowed to place their rates on an interim basis, subject to refund with interest, into place on April 1st.
So, Mr. Chair, so you can suspend it?
Yes, and they were suspended in this case, again, through March 31st. Okay. It's not that, they just don't go in automatically as a result of the company policy.
Okay. That's, okay.
Let's see, anybody opposed to this bill? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Miles Laurie on behalf of Virginia American Water. I think y'all are getting a taste of the fact that interim rates, not perfect. We don't think they're perfect. We won't argue that point. We understand the frustration of our customers, but we're in a rate case that is 15 months old. The interim rates are a mechanism for us to at least recover some of those costs. I mean, the infrastructure, the operating costs, it's expensive. Interim rates are the only way we really can recover those costs. With a 15-month case, I know Aqua America, I believe their last case was 17 months. These cases are running long. To give you an idea, what are some of the other states doing? There's some states that are interim rates. Many more have statutory constructions that limit the amount of time that a case can run, giving at least some understanding for the utility when the case will be decided. So, you've got states that do different things, but if you take away the interim rates and give us no certainty, that's going to create problems for Virginia American Water. So that's why at this point we oppose the bill. I have Barry Suits, who's the president of Virginia American Water, here if you have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Anyone have any questions? Anyone else against the bill?
Ben Dendy, representing Aqua Virginia. I think Miles made a lot of good points, and the key is that these small water systems, they've required small water systems, and they've been required, as we all know, to bring them up to current environmental standards, particularly the Chesapeake Bay standards. And this is quite expensive. And the interim rates, particularly with the length of time required to decide these cases, allows some leveling out that really ultimately makes a leveling out and lower cost over time. John Albach, who's president of Aqua Virginia, is also here. And he also indicates to me the commission doesn't necessarily approve the full rate request in terms of an interim rate.
Thank you, Dean. All right. Delegate Ransom, you have the last word.
Mr. Chairman, I am certainly not disputing that they have taken over these systems, and they have a lot of work to do, and I appreciate that. My concern is for the customers in these regions that are basically offering a loan until the rate case is decided, a loan that sometimes goes on for many, many months, sometimes over a year. So I would just ask that we not implement this interim rate until it has been decided upon by the State Corporation Commission, until the case has been decided upon, or at least give some sort of time limit.
All right. I don't see that in your bill about the time limit, and I don't know that the State Corporation Commission will do act on a time limit. I'm not sure about that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
May I ask the patron a question? I think the real crux of what I heard in there was the amount of time they can suspend the rates, which is only 150 days. I don't know, Margaret, you may propose an amendment or look at it from that way to increase the time they can suspend something. I mean, it doesn't buy you a lot of time now, but it may make it a little easier. But for what that's worth, because I think it spreads the needle. What he was saying, they may not be able to do the whole case in a year, but they wouldn't. I think it'd be great if it allowed them to have the discretion, though, to suspend an interim rate if they thought it was unreasonable. Right now, it says you can't do that. They can't even do that. After 150 days, it just says, sorry, the commission may think it's bad, but they can't do anything. So, I mean, I think that if we can pass it by, I mean, that may be a way to look at it, because on one hand, I understand their problem. On the other hand, they can't really do anything at all until the case is over. So
here's what I think we ought to do. If you want to try to work out something with the State Corporation Commission on some time frame or something like that, I believe the best thing to do, Delegate Ransom, is to pass it by for the day and try to see if you can come up with something by our last meeting on Thursday. Do you think you could do that?
I absolutely do my best.
Maybe you can. Maybe there's not a way we can do it, but at least I'll give you an opportunity to try. Okay, I know you're fighting hard for these folks. So.
I am doing my best.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll pass it by for the day. We'll put it back on for Thursday. Y'all have to be here anyway. We have energy still coming up on Thursday. So I did learn that it was in your all's area though today. So thank you. All right. The last bill we have on the full committee is House Bill 2196. There's a substitute, and that's my bill. And I have to say to the parties, the wireless community and the localities, there have been a lot of movement in the past week, and especially the last 24 hours. And I appreciate all the work that both sides have committed to do and continue to do on this bill. Basically, what House Bill 2196 does, do I have a motion that we adopt the substitute? I have a motion and a second to adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? That motion carries. But I'm going to turn it over to Kathy. But basically what 2196 does, it follows up on a work group, a bill that Delegate Heritage had last year, and that he and I worked together on during the off season with Delegate Ware chairing a committee, and some of you all were on that committee, in which we attempted to make sure that we would be in line, Virginia would be in line for more investment in the small cell technology, as well as the bigger towers that they need to get to the more rural areas. And what you'll see that House Bill 2196 does, it attempts to address those competing needs. The small cell technology work would be on existing poles and sets that up on existing infrastructure. And then you'll see a area where it addresses the approval process for that, as well as the approval process for placing other new wireless infrastructure, which will be on page 5. And then you'll see, starting on page 7, where it addresses a lot of the issues that deals with VDOT right-of-ways, etc. I can say that as I said, we made a lot of headway over the past couple of days. We had a big meeting yesterday for a couple of hours, and then I think the parties have been meeting nonstop since then. And so that's where we are. I think where we are now is that if both the parties, Rick and Dean, can come up, I think Rick representing the wireless community, Dean Lynch representing VACO and DML, that they have reached an agreement to move it forward with the opportunity that they are going to continue to work and hopefully work out an agreement on this. Is that where we are?
Mr. Chairman, with Cornwall with Verizon, and also representing the industry in the negotiations we did over the course of the summer on the work group that you set up. We appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, there have been considerable meeting of the minds in the last 24 hours, the last 2 days. It's been a constructive dialogue, and I think we're very close. We asked the committee consider passing the bill through today and let us work on getting the final details so we can amend it before.
And is that what y'all did with the Senate bill?
Yes, sir. Exactly what we did on the Senate bill yesterday.
And those who...
Mr. Chairman, committee members, Dean Lynch with the Virginia Association of Counties. We have been working diligently, good faith effort between all the parties. Had good discussion yesterday, and we think that we have made some movement. We're still waiting the trade language back and forth to see what's going to be in a future substitute bill probably. But with me here today is I do have a lot of local governments that still have issues, have concerns with the original bill. But I do want to say that, but I think that we are making great progress on this.
Okay.
And we would love to continue working with the industry on this.
We want to see if there's anyone that wants to speak in favor of the bill. Can you just be brief?
I'll do my best.
Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. My name is Mark Walker, Network Vice President for Sprint's Northeast Region. On behalf of Sprint, myself, 1,000+ Sprint associates in Virginia, our families, thousands of contractors, partners who reside in the Commonwealth, we support House Bill 2196. As of December 2016, there were approximately 10 million wireless handsets active in the Commonwealth of Virginia, a population of almost equal to 5 million. That's more than one device per person. We're not a utility, we're not a franchise, but we serve critical infrastructure to essentially the entire population. Wireless device usage is for everyone: public safety, emergency response, responders, educators, you, being our children. We all expect it to work across the entire Commonwealth without interruption, yet local government wants to treat it differently in each jurisdiction. This makes it very expensive and nearly impossible. So the use of a smartphone knows no economic or geographic boundary. Your constituents and our customers expect it to work together, work today, and get better every day. Across our industry, we're seeing Virginians, all 8+ million of them, use these devices as a primary communications resource. In fact, these devices are personal lifelines. We're seeing the demand increase each day, and data usage is increasing exponentially. To meet our growth demands for both our customers and your constituents, and ensure that Virginia remains a technology-rich Commonwealth, we must invest in the infrastructure faster than ever before. Wireless technology is a part of the backbone of a strong infrastructure. It fuels job growth, it fuels the economy, and it fuels our Commonwealth. For the Commonwealth to remain a cyber leader in the U.S., it must have an environment that promotes technology infrastructure investment. Wireless connectivity, the ability to talk, text, access data is not a luxury. It's a demand driven by your constituents and our customers and emergency responders. To support growth and ensure Virginia's leadership in technology, we need the Commonwealth's support to ensure there is predictability, efficiency, and consistency to invest. And each House Bill 2196 encourages accelerated investment while ensuring that localities of the Commonwealth retain their local rates. So Sprint and the rest of the industry are ready to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to ensure this infrastructure meets the ever-growing demands on it. We're not asking for much, we're just asking for local governments to act with predictability, efficiency, and consistency. So on behalf of the more than 1,000 Sprint
Are you in support of the bill? I just want to make sure.
I'm
Thank you.
Yeah, I think
Okay, that's.
Shorter is better.
Yeah, that's.
Thank you very much. We just have a lot of different committees going on.
Last one we're in.
Very brief, thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, I guess
That's
Deputy
fine.
Chairperson.
I'm
I'm
the
Brenda
chairman.
Johnson, Deputy Secretary of Transportation, and I'm representing VDOT and the administration. We are in favor of the bill in theory, but there are some things that we've been working on, we've been negotiating, been working with the team, and our issues are primarily around things around safety, but we are working on those issues now.
That's great.
But we understand the need for this bill.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
We have others come up, you don't need that, we're good.
That's great. Is there anyone here in opposition to the bill?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Bob Advice, City of Virginia Beach. We're speaking for all local governments, as Dean said, very briefly. We've got some concerns with the bill. The industry's been working very hard with us. No local government wants to stand in the way of fifth generation or any other technology. We have some basic land use issues that we need to work on, and we know that the chairman will work with us. So thank you very much.
Okay. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, Tom Dick with Municipal Electrics. We're not opposed to the bill. We are working on a few issues, and we appreciate what the industry's done so far, and we'll keep working on the process.
Okay. Anyone else? Delegate Hugo?
Madam Chairman, make a motion to report as amended.
Okay, we have a motion to report the substitute. Everyone ready to vote on the electronic voting board? No, it's going to the floor. Just tap it gently, keep your finger off. They're working. Okay, has everyone voted? Okay, the bill passes 17-3.
All right, and Delegate Corey, thank you for working on this issue too. It was a bunch of, y'all spent a lot of time down here in the summer. But I think that takes care of today's. Now we're going into electric subcommittee. Let's get that changed out here. I think Delegate Toscano is our first one. He wants to go first, and we'll let him break the whole subcommittee in. Just give us a few minutes here.